Hi, everyone. Today's Wednesday, August the 9th of 2020, and it's time again for Rudy's Psychic Meetup. And here we have Rudy in the room. How are you doing?
Doing great. Excited about September. I can't believe we're halfway through August. But we have some good topics for tonight. We're going to talk a little bit more about being a medium, and then get into some common superstitions and see what Sam has to say about those. But Sam, to start off, the month of September. I keep thinking of that song by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Do you remember what it was like September? So many of us are having a really good feeling about the month of September. And we're talking about it in the Discord room. And, it's really around cryptos, I think is really our focus. But I was wondering, are we all just on the same vibe? Are we picking up on the same thing? Are we all smoking the same opium? I don't know. What do you think is going on with September?
Well, I think it's a combination with that and the justice that we're going to start to see worldwide as well. So you guys are picking up that. I really do believe that the majority of the people who are on the channel, have some sort of are at a minimum, high intuition. Many people have psychic abilities. In fact, I think many times when people send me stuff of people like that they follow or whatever who claim to be enlightened individuals or, have gifts, that the person who's sending it to me, who's in our group, has more gift in their little pinky finger than that person that they're following. And it just struck me this week. I was like, oh my gosh, we have so many people. They have no idea, how much their abilities are going to be coming into play. And, we're getting all of this feedback. And of course, the Great Awakening is attached to cryptocurrencies. That's why I'm involved in it, because I saw it changing the world.
It's interesting because there's, all the phrases I think that we hear Sam say, you have no idea, nothing's going to happen like you think it is. And so that language that rings true, and we hear that, over and over again, that imprints on your brain. So it is interesting how they use language. But yeah, that's really the topic, is how you interpret the signs as a medium. Because, if we're having a reading with you or watching a video, we know that you're getting pieces of information, but you're talking in, fluid sentences and kind of telling the story. So I wanted to look behind the veil a little bit more and see what actually you're getting when you get some of these, or get this information in a reading. So as an example, you once described someone, you saw a picture of somebody's family member that was in like a train engineer costume or outfit. And you said that you realize that's what they show you when they want you to see an engineer. What are some of the other things you see when people are, identifying themselves for you?
Well, for the engineer, it was the cap that a train engineer, the guy who drives the train, it's the cap that he would wear.
The black and white striped cap. Right?
Yes. Yeah. And because it's tall and it has a very particular look at it. And another cap, and another one that I saw was the old nurse's cap. In fact, I don't know if Suji is on here or not tonight, but she'll watch it on the replay. But her mom, I didn't know her mom was a nurse. Okay. Or an aunt or something. I just remember talking to her. I actually saw a nurse's cap, and it was almost like 3D moved towards me, and it was off. She was facing me, so it was to my right, on her left. I saw this nurse's cap, and it was almost like it turned and it sort of moved a bit.
Okay. Interesting. So it's just these little pieces you get that you have to kind of weave together to figure out exactly what they're trying to show you.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, one very popular question that is a medium, I know you get all the time, is when is something going to happen? You've described a couple ways where sometimes you might get a number, like a 7 could be 7 days, 7 months, the 7th of a month, but something like that. So what are you getting if someone says, hey, Sam, when will I, leave my job? What's a typical thing that you see? How do you get that information?
I'll either see the month, the name of the month, I'll visually see it, like June, right? Or I'll see the number of months. I remember when Playing Crazy, when he asked me about a course that he was going to be taking, and how long was it going to be till it ended? And I just said 6 months, which seemed unbelievable at the time. But I mean, nobody knew that COVID was going to hit in between and slow stuff down by a few months. That's why it sounded kind of crazy. But again, I knew pretty sure. And it was like the very first thing that came to me instead of, I don't know, it was 6 months. I just 6 months. And, or the two ladies who had a reading with me, and they were moving to Arizona. And I told them that they would be all settled in there by November. And they were like, there's no way. There's no way we can get our place sold. We can get our, and then I was even right on the number of cars they would have to. Because I was like, nope, you're going to just go through. You're going to get in a new car. And they sold all three and ended up with just one new car.
Yeah. You mentioned in other blabs, I guess, is that the right way to say it? Or, when you saw yourself sitting down to kind of look at your portfolio and move some things around, and you saw yourself in the fall, or if it was September. So do you sometimes also get seasons, like a time of year maybe that's not as specific?
I actually, for that, I did see September.
Okay.
And I just saw the letters SEPT with the capital S. And then I saw myself sitting like on because I have like these higher sort of bench chairs. I don't sit in a regular chair. It's one of those bench chairs. And I was on my computer, and it looked like I was getting ready like I'm putting attention. I'm figuring out where stuff is. I'm getting stuff on exchanges. I'm ready to go. And I really felt that was last September, but it does look like it's lining up this September. But timing is the most difficult thing for me to get when it comes to events in the world. It's more like I said, like everybody's watching that Italian volcano erupting, because I did see like a big eruption in Italy, and then the banks would collapse. I thought Deutsche Bank in particular, but maybe Deutsche is the symbol for the entire banking system because they're one of the larger ones, right? But I saw the building collapsing, but it was more. But it was one of those things. I knew that the building wasn't actually collapsing. Like it wasn't a 9/11 situation. It was like my knowing. It's almost like you see the picture, but you have the knowing to go with it, so that you know that it's talking about an industry or that bank or that company that you're seeing on the building is going to collapse, not the physical building. But if you see the physical building, and you have this knowing that you're seeing a building that's going to be blown up from a terrorist event, blah, 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 then you have that knowing as well. And you can separate it. Like you'll just know. That's all the way I can describe it, is like, you're just going to know.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, that's great. That's really helpful in understanding how you work and probably how other mediums work. And if you are a medium or have some of these abilities, it'll help you make sense of it, because that was really what I was wondering. Are you seeing the movie reel? Do you get a picture and a knowing? Sometimes you get some writing. Sometimes you'll get a picture and a word. So it comes to you in all different ways, right?
Well, I really do believe that there's more than just 4 people like me on the planet. Okay. Like I know there's more, because there's some in this room. There's some people on the channel who are just like me. And the only difference between me and a lot of the other people in the world right now is that they've never had anyone train them, and they weren't able to figure it out for themselves so far. Mm-hmm. But I mean, maybe they're not. I mean, I'm an older person now. I've known about this since I was a little kid. So I've had a little bit of a jump on some people. Some people had no idea. They have no idea they're a medium. I had to tell them, no, dear, you're a medium.
Okay. So if you're a medium in training, then maybe a good idea is to, try to focus on a few things, write those down, see if they come to pass, and note what you're getting at that time. And that's probably a good way to validate some of those things and really, build your skill and help you understand how to use your gift.
Well, the format I've set up is perfect. I mean, this is the only way you can know for sure that you're getting it right, because people report back to you. And then also you can find out where you're getting it wrong. Or sometimes people are checking back, not because they are telling me I got it wrong. It's just they had sort of a similar circumstance or something that could have been misconstrued. And they're just checking back to say, is this still on track? Or maybe this person that I'm meeting is the right one. I'm like, nah, they're not. You're still on track for that way. And how do I know? You know what? There's a lot that you don't know. And as far as jotting stuff down, I find that happens if like you're doing a channel like this, because I jot stuff down when it comes to mind so I can share it with people. Because the first thing I'm thinking is, oh, well, I should tell all my little mediums there in training about this because this is new info for me. So they probably don't know this either. I'm going to tell them right now. So we can all, share our information.
Yeah. No, that's great. And one of the other things, if anyone that watches like some of the celebrity mediums, you'll see, they'll talk about when a family member comes through, one medium might see the person on the right side or the left side to tell them if it's a mother or father. Some people see it, they stand where they're standing behind it. Is there a specific way that you get information on like relationships when you're seeing a family member on the other side?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. There's a decision that they make as to what they're going to put their energy into.
Okay.
And sometimes, like there was a guy I did a reading with who I knew right away, and I've gotten into this habit of writing stuff down on pieces of paper, so that while someone's talking, if something comes to me right away, I'll write it down, right? And with him, I saw like all these musicians around him, and it turned out that's what he did for a living. Right. But I had written down musical family. And then so when he said, well, I'm a musician, and then I held it up. So he knew that I was tapping into that. But you see, when his father came forward, he didn't put the energy into saying, I'm his father. He showed me that he was the male who played the saxophone.
Okay. So that might be easier to get or have more meaning. Okay. Interesting.
That's right. And it's like father, grandfather, but there was only one person that played the saxophone, like in his, like who had passed away in his immediate family, and that who was a male. And it wasn't one of his uncles, it was his dad. So that was, they decide, because I do believe that they decide, like they almost like they nominate just one or two people to get the message through. And then they all sort of pool their energy, their resources, or they decide, just like you used to watch those game shows on TV where they'd have the one person who would speak, but you would have everybody sort of pooling their brain power to try to figure out the answer to the question. And it's almost like their whole family is trying to decide what type of symbol or idea. Like, I have no idea what kind of energy it took for somebody from the other side to say, he doesn't deserve it. That was the funniest thing. That was the funniest thing that ever happened to me. Because I guess they were trying to set up stuff with their cryptos, right? And the people on the other side, they are really against people, spoiling their pampered family members who are just going to piss away all this money that we've all gone through this trouble to glean for society. Might as well take some if the biggest transfer's happening, right? And then we can help.
That's funny. Well, hopefully this is useful to anyone who has an upcoming reading with Sam. We always think about understanding her gifts, how it works, and see what you can do to get the most out of your reading. I know I had a reading with Sam last year, and it was about this property. So I had a map of the state, and it had numbers. Like it was like cordoned off into grids. I'm like, okay, Sam, where do you think it's going to be? And they're like, sorry, we're not telling you. Don't get anything. So sometimes they won't tell you, right? Sometimes they either don't give you the information because you shouldn't know, or you don't need to know.
Yeah, it's on a need to know basis. So people are like, are you going to Texas? I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure I'm going to Texas. Where are you going? I don't know exactly. I'm just told I got to go check it out. And I guess I'll find out eventually where I'm going. It's just, I know that I'm leaving. So I have to get ready to do that. But I'm just kind of I just do things on a need to know basis. I just really trust in it. And I try not to get too anxious about it. And at this point, so many things come true all the time on a daily basis that I really do trust my ability so much more than I did even a year ago. And I do credit this format where there's so many people who can just, if you went through my Discord in like a week, you would see all the people some of them post it publicly in readings. Some people send it to me privately in a message just because they don't want to post it in the public rooms, which is fine. I get that. And it's a follow-up to a reading that I gave them or some information that they gleaned from me when I just happened to be in the Discord room and they had a question and they're confirming it. And I think that confirmations are the key. So if somebody is looking to train to be a medium, like I said before, I'm not kidding around when I say get a couple of volunteers that you meet at like these woo-woo things that you might go to for seminars and announce it. Say, I'm somebody, I have abilities. I'm not quite sure if I'm just a high functioning psychic or if I'm a psychic medium, or you can say I am actually a psychic medium, but I'm really struggling to practice my gift. I don't want to charge people any money for it, or actually even put time into holding myself out as a medium if I don't know for sure that I'm good enough. And that's really, I think, where a lot of people will fail to get their practice, because they just don't have the confidence. And I say, just go and get it and volunteer your abilities as a medium so that you can practice and learn to get it right.
Yeah, that's what's great about the Discord is you can either, pose questions or offer things on the Discord, or privately if you have a few people that you chat with regularly. Even I saw Tarzan, Crypto Tarzan was out there and, gave some people a test. And so it's fun to see that interaction on Discord where people are experimenting and really trying to build their abilities. So it's very cool. All right, let's get into our second topic for the night, the truth in folklore and superstitions. So Sam, I think we're all familiar with superstitions, and a lot of times we'll even refer to them without even knowing why they exist. But with some myths and beliefs, there may be an element of truth to these, which is why they still exist. So let's take a look at a couple and get your thoughts on it. So the first one is the Grim Reaper. So for thousands of years, various cultures have figures to represent death. One of the common enduring ones is the Grim Reaper, sort of a hooded skeleton figure. And there's actually people who report stories of seeing this figure appear before someone passes over. So what is happening, Sam? Do you think they are seeing a representation of death just based on their common knowledge or cultural knowledge, or is this actually a someone that comes over to get you?
Well, in one of the earlier meetups, we talked about how I sort of gleaned from the information I get from the other side from going back and forth. I got the impression that an angel, everybody gets their own angel, I guess you would call it your guardian angel. I do believe in angels. I do believe we all have a guardian angel. Plus our tribe would be, the family and friends, the people who've passed over before us who are keeping an eye on things. So that being the case, where an angel brings you back, and an angel brings you here and an angel brings you back. So when you're looking at passing, there is a light being who will take you. But again, if you took a lot of left turns in your life and you're coming towards the end of your life, then what you've done is I don't have any fear about dying. I don't want to get squished like a bug. That's my thing. Like, I don't want to get hit by a tractor trailer. That would be gross. No. I don't want to
drown. I don't want to burn. That's my
avalanches. I'm okay with those. If I get caught in an avalanche on the mountain, I'm good there, because that's pretty quick. It snaps your neck. You're gone pretty quick, right? So none of this burning, or like I said, I was like, I'm not afraid of what comes after, though. But if you're somebody and you're one of these, I call them shit people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, that's just a shit person. They're just, they took too many left turns. They don't have any friends, so now they sit and they troll on the internet because this is what feeds their hate. And I just call them, those are shit people. I hope they find their way out of this mess and quagmire and turn it around. But in the meantime, click hide channel from viewer. I just click the reject button on that. But I do believe that when people like that, if they end up in that state when they're ending their life, because like I said, everybody can be a crappy person, but it's all about changing and recognizing what you've done wrong in the past and making those changes. So if you haven't and you're close to death, what you're going to see is a representation of those things in between, like a shadow person, or I guess you would call it the Grim Reaper, where they have the black hood on and stuff. Because believe me, your angel coming to collect you, to help you cross over, doesn't look anything like that. So if you're seeing bad stuff when you're dying, or somebody's seeing bad and scary stuff, they might be just trying to get a hook in them to get them to stay in the in-between. Because that's, that was the thing I said to my dad. I was like, when he was dying, I was talking about how his mom was already there and his brothers were away. And I was like, Al, he's dawdling. He's out hanging out with his buddies, last minute. I think my dad, even though he couldn't breathe at that point, he managed to get out a bit of a laugh.
Okay.
Right. Because what's he going to do, right? He knows he's dying. This is going to be it. And I'm handling it. I'm just like, this is the way. And Al's taking his time. I said, but whatever you do, don't stop and look back. Go into the light and just keep going. Right. Because, I know that people have some fears sometimes when they're getting ready to pass over, and they're very fearful about, if you believe in hell,
Mhm.
or, that bad things are, or just really the unknown. If they don't know, then they don't have the peace.
Yeah. And I don't know if we have any Vikings in the room, but I think Vikings talk about the Valkyries that would come down, the winged warriors. So yeah, maybe if you're any Vikings out there, you'll get a Valkyrie. The next creatures are mermaids, and I know we've mentioned the program before that you actually kind of saw one when you were at one of your courses. But typically, mermaids appear to sailors, and it can be both like an unlucky omen or a good thing. And some stories depict the mermaids speaking to doomed ships, or people on the ships, or mermaids can be a sign of approaching rough weather. Do mermaids show themselves to maybe sailors who have gifts or abilities, or are they somehow there to warn sailors of things that might happen in the ocean?
That's interesting that you mentioned that, sailors who have gifts or abilities. And of course, we got on that subject when I just randomly blurted out that Noah was a medium. And that's how he knew to build that ark, because he was a medium. He knew the storm was coming, and people made fun of him. He even offered them a spot, but by the time they realized that the rains weren't going to stop, everything was already bolted up and settled in, and he couldn't open up the doors, right? This is typically the way, it happens.
Gifted people are in all walks of life. So with sailors, that you do hear these threads throughout history of sailors seeing mermaids, and so it makes sense that there are some gifted ones out there. But are mermaids there to serve as any sort of a warning to some of these sailors, or are they just kind of there in the ethos, and some people can perceive them?
Well, I don't know about the warnings. I do think that they are. When I saw this mermaid, I just saw its tail, and I would say that mermaids are from a different realm, like the same as like the fairies and the gnomes and elves and stuff. It's like a different realm that they live in. Just like I said, the demons, the creatures, and the things that live in between. And there's a various spectrum of things. And like the demons and the creatures and the bad stuff, they're on this side of the spectrum, the dark. But see, even the in between has the lighter beings,
Okay.
as well, that just live there. And these are like the mermaids, the fairies, and I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying this. I mean, I didn't even believe in them before. I'm like, to the people on the other side, I'm like, are you kidding? Really? Are you kidding me? There are really fairies. Oh, well, cheers to that. And Sue's fairy doors. If anyone doesn't know, Sue G makes wonderful fairy doors that you can put in your garden. They're
Right.
quite ornate, all these different colors. I got a bright red one from her.
Oh, cool. Well, no, that's interesting about mermaids, though, for sure. The other superstition a lot we have is throwing salt over your shoulder, and salt is often used in spiritual rituals associated with, purification or protection. But one common myth in Western culture is that if you spill salt, or sometimes it's good to throw salt over your shoulder because it might blind the devil that is, standing right behind you, right? So, just in general, is there any I don't know, properties to salt that make it help with some of these rituals?
So I don't know anything about the salt over the shoulder, but I know that you can sort of, I call it, seal an area. So even though I don't do any like demon chasing in houses, like I don't run ghosts off. Some people do that. That's their calling.
Okay.
And they'll even talk to them too. I'm like, oh, when I watch Amy Allen talking to, like, I actually see her talking to these things. You can't see it, but I can see like what she's seeing in her mind's eye.
Oh, cool. When you're watching the show. Okay, cool.
Very freaky. I was like, sometimes I would watch it though. I've seen because I was learning about these other things because, and I mean, she wouldn't even have to talk about them. And I would be like, oh yeah, those things are real. And I would kind of get an idea where they came from and what the deal is with them. Things are very complicated.
Yeah.
Even in the in between, it's not simple at all. I'm just like, sometimes my head just wants to fall off. It's pretty crazy, all of the information that we could just, you could just write volumes and volumes of books just on like mermaids alone, probably, and fairies and the in between realm and all what that's all about. But the salt will ground an area. So throwing it over your shoulder is not going to help you. But I know, like, if if somebody had like a medium emergency and it's kind of like, okay, all right, yes, your house is haunted. Yes, I know who's here. Okay, I'll try to get rid of them. I'm not going to charge you anything though, because I haven't done this before. I'm just guessing, right? I would definitely use salt. Like I would use the, and I would speak in tongues, which freaks them out to all get out. Like it does. They just start doing this little crazy dance. Like they're on a hot plate, the demonic things. And then I would use the feather and the sage. And then I would use salt to seal every windowsill, every door, like every sort of threshold that they could try to come back in.
Okay.
So there's something to that. And I don't know what it is, but it's just like I said before, how there's quartz is,
quartz can absorb energy and replay it, right? Yeah.
Right. So quartz does something, salt does something.
Okay.
I do think there is something with some kind of crystals, but not to the level that they've got that whole industry like just churning out the money for. I'm just like,
Well, cool. Maybe we'll find out more about salt as the years go on, right? Because we always seem to learn a little bit more. All right, the last two we want to touch on is burning ears. So this originates, I think, from ancient Romans who believed that different feelings in the body were signs of current or future events. So one thing that people always say is if there's a ringing or burning feeling in the ears was a sign that you're being talked about. Is there anything to this?
They might, I find that many old sayings like that definitely indicate that people were aware of knowings for a very long time, and that people have this. And one of the things that from my very early days of, having abilities, I could always tell when people were talking about me. And it wasn't, my ears weren't burning or anything like that, but I would get, it would be like a heavy, hot feeling around about this part of my, like, it was weird that you mentioned that, because they talk about your ears getting hot, but I would say it was more around here.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, and I'm only thinking about this now that you brought it up, which is probably one of the great purposes of our little topics before we go into the questions. It gets me to stretch my brain a little bit on, how the heck can I do this? Because you don't really think about it, do you?
And some people might actually get the burning of the ears, and other people might feel it differently. So that's interesting that there might be something to it. The last one is itchy palms. I'm sure all of us have itchy palms because we may find ourselves with a little bit of extra money. And I think some have even said that maybe the right hand means you're going to get money, and the left hand means you're going to lose it. Because the right is more active energy and the left is more passive. So any truth to that with the itchy palms?
Not with the itchy palms. No, you're just, it's just, there's too much humidity in the air and then dryness in your palms. And that's why you're getting that reaction.
Or you might have some eczema. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're just,
Cool. All right. Well, let's jump right into the questions. That was great, Sam. Thanks for that. All right. Marnie writes, "Hi guys. I've read on conspiracy sites there is less silver in the world than gold, and there is more of a demand of silver. Is this true?" Raymond writes, "Hello, Sam and Rudy. When we reach the other side, do we use the same name that we had before we died, or are we called something else? Does the same soul inhabit all of the lives that we live? Thanks."
So I don't really understand the question.
So I think name, like you said, when you get people on the other side, you don't go by names. It's more of an energy signature, right? We don't have names. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And the same soul inhabit all the lives. I mean, I think that's just, our soul is our soul. I don't think it divides or is shared really. It's you are you, right?
That's it.
Okay.
You are you. And then when we die, we go back to source. But it's kind of hard to understand because we're using our human brains to try to understand. And that's why, like, when I hear a lot of stuff from people that is just total and utter, like, I call it poppycock, just people have just made this stuff up. And it's just, I look at it and they send me like this, quote unquote, this guru stuff. And then I look at it and I'm just like, that guy, he just doesn't want to get a job. He just doesn't want to get a real job. He wants to be someone like me. Right. Whereas you'll find most people like me were like, yeah, I didn't want to be a medium. I was splitting off in the other direction. And then source grabbing me, and I'm like flailing and then dropping me in front of it again. There you are, medium, go do your job. And then I go splitting off in the other direction and then brings me back. And, most people who are mediums, it's not something that they came to easily, and I'm just lucky I didn't have to get struck dead. Like, one medium that I know who went splitting off way too many, and then she ended up having to die and cross over. I was like, no, I don't want, and it actually crossed my mind too. I was like, what if they kill me? What if they kill me to bring me across and give me that finger wig? And you get back there and do your job. You said you were going to do it when you got here. You're being triggered now. This was the deal. This was the deal. Do what you want. And then when you're 49, poof, it's over. Now you got to do what.
You're not even voluntold. You were already signed up for this job before.
That's right. Okay. All right. But they make it great anyways. Because again, they assembled quite the team. And I agree with Jackie. I'm thinking that maybe we'll have a little video contest where people can submit videos and then we can put them together, just where people talk about how they, what the decision was, how they decided to join the channel. Yeah, I think that would be really super interesting if we put something like that together and I throw it at Baggy and then we edit it. And yeah.
Poor Baggy, all she's going to do is edit for the rest of her life. All right, this is me writes, hi guys, I was wondering a general question. Sam, we always talk about the conspiracies that aren't true. Are there any that really are that really are true and surprised you?
Oh yeah, all kinds.
William Penn writes, there were several volunteers to come to the Earth realm for the Great Awakening. Now that they are here, are they aware of their roles as you are, or will history reveal the major players?
I think it's on a need to know basis. So I think that if I sat down and told Donald Trump like who he was and, high five, brother, give me what? You don't remember me? What? No, come on. You forget so quickly. You're killing me here. That's not the way it goes down. I mean, it's all on a need to know basis. And I mean, obviously, if you're a medium, you're going to know a lot more stuff because you have access to the ethos. And that's my job because, I mean, how can you train people who are trying to learn to be mediums if I don't have the answer to these things? So that's why I find that I do get answers to things that it's not really normal for a medium. It's more like an oracle that would have these answers. But again, it's, if you have to teach, then this is what has been given to you. And so I'll just take it and run with it.
All right, cool. Nika writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. I'd love to know if the books and knowledge sequestered in the Vatican Library will ever be made available to the world. Are there any truth bombs to be found there about humanity's past, spirituality, esoteric topics, etc.?
Oh, yes. Lots of amazing stories. They have stories of the giants. Mm-hmm. They even have some proof of the giants that were hidden away, like bones and stuff. I believe there's skeletal remains of very large giants, like the giant people, I call them. They really did exist.
And there's newspaper clippings of those and said to be buried in the Smithsonian Institute somewhere in the basement. So, and I remember Cliff High talked about the riots they saw coming in Italy and the Vatican. And I wonder, do you see that actually happening with riots and people breaking into the Vatican?
Well, I thought that they were after the Pope because they found out about the cover up and all the child molestation, but also the present day child trafficking that is run through, that they use like the Vatican and the Catholic Church as a cover, like in Haiti, that was used quite a bit. From my understanding, from what I'm seeing, and that's all going to come out, and it's going to just discuss so many people. And I did see fire, and I saw sort of, it was almost like a Google map, and where you had almost like this paper cutout of somebody who was obviously the Pope, because it was a man in a white sort of robe with the really tall hat, and it was almost like it shows him going from Italy, and then it just shows him going like this, and it has like this little dot trace. I'm like, okay, you can't make it any more plain for me, I see. Right?
You can draw these pictures.
Yeah, that it's like literally, I could probably get my daughter to like animate what I said, but I'm just like it reminded me like of the nurse's hat when I was sitting there talking to Sue, and then the nurse's hat came forward into my face, and I was like, oh geez, okay. And then, but I didn't know for sure until I got the confirmation.
Okay. Oh, cool. All right. Susan OG writes, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. Apologies if you answered this in the past, and I don't think we have, but was Joan of Arc a medium or just intuitive? Was she in communication with the source and aware of her special role or mission? Or just a feisty girl? Did she really say Jesus, Jesus, Jesus as her last words when she was being burned at the stake? Thanks."
I don't actually know very much about Joan of Arc. I know that there was a movie that they did of Joan of Arc. I probably should have watched it. I probably would be able to answer the question better.
A. Nolte writes, "Hi, Samantha and Rudy. When I was a child, I was dreaming and talking a lot about the star world, Sirius. There is one little tiny cozy star among them. This little tiny star is my hope for a happy end in my crazy Earth time being. When I was a child, I decided to get there after my human being. Do you get any picture, any thoughts about the connection between Sirius and planet Earth? Till today, I can hear the calming sounds of this little tiny star. Thanks, Anna Gret." So, have you heard of the star system Sirius? There's a lot of people that report that they are from that part of the galaxy. I guess. Do you get anything on Sirius?
No, see, my understanding is very different than what people are talking about. Because someone asked me if I was like from a Palladian or something like
Yeah.
that. They were like, "Are you a Palladian?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I guess so. If you think I am, or if I look like," she described it. I was like, "Well, that kind of describes me." And but I didn't know too much about it. And what I'm getting more and more of is that a lot of this stuff is it's either a misunderstanding or some of it's completely made up. Like I find some of the Dolores Cannon stuff is just misunderstanding. Right.
Okay.
It's not, because I mean, I do believe what she's talking about. But again, I haven't heard everything. I mean, I haven't had the time to look at it. And I've felt many ways that I'm not actually supposed to, because then I would develop my own ideas
Okay.
about things, and mine, what I think about this stuff really doesn't count.
And this one might be, we look at this closer later on. I have a book that I'm holding up that I haven't read yet. It's called Conversations with Ogetememli. And this is a story about the Dogon tribe in the Sudan. And they reportedly were a tribe that had a map of like the Sirius star system before we had the astronomy to be able to go and look at it, before we had the telescopes. And later on found that, they'd actually mapped this out. So I'll have to. It's on my list of reading, right, when I retire. But
Oh, well, that's easy enough to explain. I mean, there were aliens here
okay,
before, the ones that helped build the pyramids, all of those ancient ruins that we're finding, like in Atlantis, when you get into the floor there in Bimini, and they have like that big stone temple underwater that there's no way that a human being or any sort of machinery, anything that was available thousands of years ago, as far as we know, is only simple machines, right? So that just proves that there was some sort of advanced civilization here. And if they have a map of Sirius, it is because aliens came from there and provided those maps. Because when you talk about, oh, these people are from that place, and it's like, okay, well, the people who are here on the earth realm, they are all spiritual beings who come from source. This is their training ground, right? Their training ground is not Sirius, it is the planet Earth, right? So that's what I mean. It's not matching with what information I have. But again, these are things, this is why we talk about it. It's woo woo, and we're just having a discussion about it. And, I'm just sharing, what I'm getting from the people on the other side in regards to Sirius and all of those sorts of situations. So
okay,
I do believe that there are people who may be descendants of people from Sirius. But as far as, oh, we as spiritual beings, that we recycle, we reincarnate here on Earth, and then we reincarnate over in Sirius, and then we reincarnate over here on Earth, and it's like, no, that's not how it works.
okay, all right. Well, cool. Thanks for that information. That's an interesting take. Tinkerbell writes, "Does Shungite work? It's a 2 billion-year-old meteorite from Russia, a non-crystalline mineraloid consisting of more than 98 weight percent of carbon. It's used as water purifying, extremely grounding, and it's also believed to help shield you from electromagnetic frequencies, EMFs coming from smartphones, Wi-Fi, etc. And in fact, Tinkerbell, I happen to have one right here that you would stick on the back of your cell phone. We got it at the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, I think. But so, Sam, do you think there's anything to Shungite being able to ground some of these frequencies?
I heard one word when you were reading Tinkerbell's thing, and the word was fraud.
Fraud. Okay, interesting.
Fraud. Just like those boxes that they sell because they're trying to get everyone to think that there's going to be an electronic, like some sort of attack, and you have to save your cell phone, and they sell
cages,
all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And, it's like, oh, those are extremely rare. And if it happened all over the world, then, only what good is just you and the other 5 people who have their current SIM cards. And, like how many of you actually come home and put your stuff in a Faraday box? It's so silly. I'm sorry. It is. But you know what? We're allowed to be silly together. I'll have a laugh with you. Just tell me about it. We'll have a laugh about it. And you'll be like, yeah, no more wasting money on dumb things. Buy DOT, buy some more ADA, get some XRP on the down low. Like, don't spend any money on this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Upgrade your membership before you spend any more money on that stupid stuff. Oh my God.
Oh, I know. I was going to buy a new car stereo, and I thought, no, I want more cryptos. All right. Alex S. writes, hi, Rudy, Samantha. Please share your views on the fire yoga of Tanjori phenomenon. Allegedly, the fire doesn't harm the yogi during a several-hour process. No hair catches fire, no visible damage to the skin or other tissues. Physics, magic for the masses, or something else? There's an 8-minute video here, but Alex, I don't think we'll be able to pull it up on this live stream. But Sam, do you get anything on the fire yogi of Tanjori phenomenon? Are people actually able to meditate or do whatever they do and withstand fire?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Their mind is amazing. You can train your mind to slow your heart rate down. You can train your mind to withstand pain. It's I think that the power of our brains is just so untapped. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, Alex, I don't know if you've seen, there's videos of the monks that will meditate. They'll have a cold, like a wet blanket in the middle of winter, and they will actually dry the blanket out and heat up. They use their bodies. So that makes a lot of sense. Maybe they're somehow hydrating their bodies, the skin, so that it's not impacted. That's fascinating. Silver Eye writes, hi guys, I just came across some Kirlian photographs of my hands from 1978. I was wondering what Sam's thoughts are on, I'm sorry, I might be saying this wrong, Kirlian Photography, Kurlian. Sam, have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's basically like it's a photo technique from what I'm seeing that it's kind of almost like a electromagnetic image that you take of your hands. It photographs in a different light spectrum. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do you think there's anything to that?
Well, I think that certain ones, like you can see people's auras and stuff.
Yeah. I've done that. It's before, and it's they take it. It was like a Polaroid thing they had, and you put your hands on something. And it was funny because they had to retake it, and it was different the second time they took it right afterwards. So I thought that was interesting. But okay. Jillybean says, hello, our friends Rudy and Sam. Sam, are there life forms in the universe not created by source? And if so, were they created by natural evolution? And does that mean they are not eternal? Thank you for your great work.
Well, I mean, originally everything comes from source. But yes, there are some things that just evolved. There were hominids here before the Anunnaki arrived. And the hominids were naturally, like what they say, oh yeah, we crawled out of the ocean. Well, yeah, we did. And then we sprouted legs, and then we, but we only got as far as hominid. So we were still pretty useless. We weren't smart enough to help them build what it is that they wanted to build. So then they dickered with the DNA a little bit, and boom, you got humans. So yeah, I think that's, in my opinion, that's how it went down, what I'm gleaning from it, because up until this point, I mean, I didn't even know who the Anunnaki were.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been talking about that recently quite a bit. Yeah, so we got an upgrade. That's cool. William Penn says, have any other roles been revealed to you by the other side? Are most of these roles benevolent? Is there an antagonist?
Are is are you saying rules or roles?
No, our roles. So, like, we're people here for the Great Awakening, but are there? I think what he's getting at is, are there people here who are supposed to do evil and bad in order to push and challenge people, or is that just part of being human? There's always a certain amount that we know will make the wrong choices, and we're just all thrown in the mix.
The second one. There's just always people who are going to make wrong choices, but it's a very small percentage. I mean, David 14 said, most people are good. And that's been my experience. I mean, most people are good people.
Crypto Mist writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. Just wondering if you have any information of any life on Mars, either basic life forms or possibly human life forms from the distant past. I know they believe Mars used to be covered in oceans, so I was wondering if some life form was possible. Thanks to you both.
Well, they're going to discover like actual living cells,
Okay.
right? Or like they might find like worms, something that's like worms. And I'm just seeing that it's a pretty low level of life form, but it is a currently living life form. And that's as close as you're going to get to a living organism, is something that looks like a worm.
Yeah, there's always interesting pictures from the Mars rover of like things in the rock formations that look like creatures or just stand out. But, unless you're there, it's really hard to verify. Charlie also writes, hello, thanks. When we pass over, do we have a recall of our past lives as well as those who were connected to in this life?
Past lives, no. What happens is that you become aware of the being that you are. And so all of your memories of your past life are now accessible to you. But when you're crossing over, the subject hand at matter is the current life that you've just finished. And that's where you're going to have, and I don't call it Judgment Day. I call it your end of life review. Because I mean, there's positive and there's negative, but it's more of as well sort of getting the full story on things, because, you get to be the third eye on the situation. You see yourself and whatever happened with the other person or the other people, but it's like you're getting the full story as to what happened.
So we got about 6 questions left. Kind of as a follow-on to that, Charlie also writes, as an ex-Mormon, we're taught our loved ones are eagerly waiting for us to do their baptism and temple work. We hear stories all the time of spirits contacting the living to get on the ball and do the work, as well as those spirits coming back with gratitude sometimes. When we pass over, don't we have a knowing about our soul's history and realize the real story about the church, that the church is all about controlling people for the gain of those at the top leadership positions? Thank you. Yeah, so I think you kind of already answered that, right? You see it all when you cross over, and you realize that you may have been manipulated in some organization.
Yeah, and just to speak on religion, I know that as a medium, people are going to ask me about that. And even though I would admit to them that I do not personally practice any one religion, I am very spiritual. Like I have some knowings about like the way it is and what to expect and that kind of thing. But I like that there's enough mystery for me as well, because you don't really know for sure, like until you're there. So in that way I'm just like everyone else. But I view religion, I mean, I understand people saying, to control the masses. And there are some really bad religions out there, or not even necessarily religions, but I'd say more individual churches. It all depends on who's running it, just like a country, right? A religion can be like a country. It depends on who's running it, and it's just like a boat that gets you to the other side of this, this river that you cannot cross. You can't swim across it. It's too dangerous. You must take a boat. And a lot of times the boat is your religion that takes you from the earth realm to the other side. And then when you get to the other side, like you don't take your boat with you. You just get out and just keep walking.
Yeah, it's a very, belief system is important for a lot of people. And sometimes some people it's more important to them, and some people it's less. But I think it definitely plays an important role in people's lives. Susan OG, hi, Sam and Rudy. Was the Mona Lisa painting the wife of the silk merchant Lisa or Leonardo's generalized image of the ideal mother?
I do believe that he did take the image of a particular person. Now, I don't know who it was. If they're saying that it was this woman because she resembled it, then that would fit with the story that I'm being told. But I am being told that that is a live person that he painted, like somebody who did exist.
All right, cool. Hamid writes, "Hello, Sam and Rudy. I was wondering why most people are not allowed to contact the other side. If they weren't allowed, if they were allowed, wouldn't that help them awaken in a short time? What is the point of going through a lot of pain before becoming awakened? Thank you."
Well, I mean, generally across the board, when you come over to this realm, that's one of the rules is that you don't talk to the other side. And there's a handful of people, who have mediumistic abilities, but normally it is for a purpose. It's not the normal thing. It does impede your ability to learn your lessons when you are a medium. I mean, I know it's complicated, isn't it? And it would definitely make it a lot easier if you were a medium. But you see, being a medium, I can read minds and I can tell the future. And I can tell you right now that if every single person in the world had my abilities, we would have a very different world.
That's true.
I don't even want to know what it would be like. Just right now, I like having the unfair advantage, as I'm sure most of you like that, having a medium in your pocket. That's why I'm like, shh, keep it on the down low. We don't want too many people to know. So we're all locked up somewhere with our crypto millions.
All right, Tinkerbell writes, "Hello, Sam. Do amethyst crystals work? I'm told it absorbs negative energy and to put them all over the house, car, and pocket to protect you from negative energy."
Oh, amethyst.
Amethyst.
Okay, so not really buying into the whole crystal or rock thing, except that there is something to, like I said, the quartz. I brought that up. And I do think that there is something that can be done with crystals, but it would be more like, let me give you an example. If I took a piece of that rock there and I made it into a necklace, just broke off a piece and I made it into like a little necklace.
Okay.
Right. And then I prayed over it. I spoke in tongues and I put an intention on it for protection. Right. And then I put it in a little box and then I sent it to you. And then you put that on, but with the knowing that somebody that you trust has put the intentions on it to protect you. And they're just see something about the ability of certain, rocks and stuff to sort of hold that more. It's more of easier for it to be a focal point. Now, instead of choosing that, though, I would choose something. This is probably why they choose crystals, because they're smoother.
Yeah.
Right. And you can actually touch it. Right. So when you have like a high anxiety time and you have like a crystal that you believe.
Yeah, I have a bunch of these. We go to the Tucson Rock and Mineral Show every year. But yeah, I mean, you can carry something like this in your pockets, an amethyst. It's smoothed over. These rocks are very sharp, but they're pretty to look at. I like them. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've thought about it at a later time, as I'm trying to figure out my different gifts. I know that I have the gift of healing. I'm not quite sure how to operate it, though. I've gotten some feedback from people who've had things disappear. And one of them in particular, it was because I felt like it was a spiritual attack against them because they have abilities like I do. Just the same as I don't really have problems with my intestines or my stomach physically, but it's just that because I get attacked by the negative entities, that seems to be the place that they can get me the most, right? So once I told the guy what was going on, oh yeah, no, that you're right, that's not supposed to happen, you're just being attacked. He wrote me back and he was like, a few hours after the reading was done, it just went away. So, if I was to play with that and say, okay, let me just sort of figure out, I would go out and I would get a bunch of those. Because again, the thing about the smooth,
right.
That just came to me as we were talking about it. Right. And I was just like, okay, if I get a bunch of those, and then I held them and prayed into them and had intentions for protection and luck and then wrapped that up with love and sent it in the mail to them. And then they would come out and just be like, okay, whenever you're feeling that you need some healing or that you need some protection, take that and put it in your hand and then think about that, right?
Okay.
What you need. And then I think what it does is it makes it like it's almost like a focal point for you with the intentions. It's so hard to explain. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying about intention and kind of, zapping something, so to speak, that it has a little bit more, it can hold that energy. So that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know if
So
you
it's
remember.
not, yeah. So it's not that it automatically has it. It's like, if you have these abilities, I'm of the understanding that it can be sent out.
Okay. And I think back before you started any of the crowdcast videos, when we used to chat on the Discord voice chat, you had said you got to do cryptos first for about 4 years, then you can do your healing stuff. Like that'll happen later, right? So yeah, you still got a few years before you figure out.
Yeah, I am. I'm thinking about stuff, and I'm like, okay, because that cryptos are one thing, but if you're somebody who can heal people, I was watching a documentary about somebody who did astrology in the Puerto Rican community, and he became like really well known even in North America. But when he was really young, and I do believe that he had actually mediumistic abilities because when he was talking and stuff, and it was almost like he used his astrology or his astrological, or it was astrology where he would talk about the different signs and that kind of thing. But I got the impression that he was a medium. And I got the impression that he could heal when I was watching him and so I was not surprised when he said that because he brought a bird to life and somebody saw him do that, he said that there was a big lineup outside of his home and people would come and he would just touch them. And I was like, well, geez, it must have worked out because if they kept coming back, people wouldn't come back if there weren't results from the other thing, right? So, that sort of piqued my interest when I heard that story from him. Some of you might have seen it. It was on Netflix. I don't remember. Did anyone see that and remember the title? I'm terrible like that because it was one I watched without my husband because I was like, oh, he's not going to watch this with me.
But we have a lot of healers in the group too, so I think that'll become a focal point probably in the coming years once we're wealthy. All right. Last couple of questions. Marcus writes, "Hi Sam, I've noticed I tend to know things that are going to happen, and I also pick up on things from other people and have told people things that I do not know or no way can I know in advance. This has been happening for at least 8 to 9 years, but it seems it's getting stronger. Is there something to this or just ordinary intuition?" Marcus, I bet it's since you've joined this group, maybe you're noticing some more.
Oh, yeah. That sounds to me like knowings, Marcus. So hang out a little bit longer and let's see what happens because some people are getting some pretty significant results in their abilities. And Rick Ray says Mercado. And that's right. It is Mercado because Mercado means market. And it's the Spanish translation for the English word market. So Mercado. So I remember that saying, oh, his last name was Market.
Yeah, but Marcus, a lot of us have noticed being part of this group and just interacting in the Discord, we start to tune in and you will notice things start to happen for you even stronger. So good to hear that that's happening for you. Last 2 questions, Sam. We'll go quick. I got to skip over a few of them. Jackie B says, "Hi, Sam and Rudy. Sam, in the past, you've spoken of Antarctica, perhaps a warm underground inhabitable environment. The subject of this area comes up from time to time. Any more information on the area? Who's there now? What's going on?"
The Americans are still there. It's top secret and it's pretty amazing. It's like tropical weather underneath this ice patch, like underneath, like, cause it's down deep in the ground and beautiful, like lakes. And I mean, you could have cities in there.
It was like geothermal heating that's keeping it warm up in
Okay. Yeah. It's just crazy. I don't even know what to say about that, but it's not like something that, UFOs are using or something like that.
Because at the end of the Obama administration, I know several officials went down there and I think got to take the tour, use their status to see what's down there. Will we ever get to know what's down there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's one of the things that Trump is going to release in his second term. Oh yeah, man. He's going to let it all hang out. You guys better make sure he gets that landslide he's looking for.
Awesome. Last question from Matt Kurtz. "Hello, you two, and thank you in advance. Were the flying vehicles that Edgar Casey spoke about, they could fly through the air and underwater, were they created by alien species before the Anunnaki? Casey stated that they thought that they had these roughly 50,000 BC. and before, trying to tie together a timeline. So I'm not familiar with what Casey spoke about those vehicles.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it either, but I'm getting the impression that, again, this is the alien nations who brought this to us. And then, they tried to destroy everything that they possibly could of this advanced technology so that mankind would have to sort of start all over again. But a lot of the stuff has been uncovered. So again, we're going to be seeing all of that coming out in the near future.
Okay, cool. And it reminds me of something I want to bring up for next meeting. So thanks, Sam. We're at the bottom of the hour. Thanks for your time. Great answers tonight. And we'll see you in about 2 weeks.
And thanks again, everyone, for hanging out. Bye for now.